Kia ora, I'm Miriam Akamo. They're the kids who stopped the world, this week bringing the country to a standstill. Thousands of kids playing truant, demanding action on climate change. You're stealing our future, they say. We feel betrayed. Smart, resourced and determined to win their cause, they're also terrified. What would happen, we wondered, if we brought them face to face with the very companies they claim are threatening our future? It's a tough room.
Hi everyone.
They may be kids, so should these companies be afraid?
I think they definitely should be afraid.
But tonight they're taking on giants, some of our biggest carbon-emitting companies.
You could make a difference, so are you going to make that difference?
The way kids like Auckland's Luke Wee-John
Hopelessness is useless!
and Christchurch's Lucy Gray see it. We need to listen up.
The main thing that's getting kids out into the streets is fear. For my generation, it's climate change that we'll be dying of if we don't do something drastic to stop this.
Because it is our lives on the line. I look into the future not thinking, what's my profession going to be? What's the passion I really want to follow? Am I going to have a family? I look into the future thinking, am I going to be alive?
This is what democracy looks like!
What these kids really want is a normal life.
I've been forced to be an activist, but I don't want to be an activist. I want to be a kid.
You can at least pretend to look interested.
He's just 17. Luke's known as a top student at Central Auckland's Western Springs College. What would you rather be doing?
I don't think I've had enough time to spend thinking about what I'd prefer to be doing, but I would prefer to be probably studying Māori history and studying philosophy. And I mean, I love sports, I love debating people, I love this is a thing, my entire life has become this. So are you guys going to be coming to the school strike? Yeah! No one else is saving the planet, so we're going to have to, because we're the ones who are going to have to live in it.
It sounds like the plot to a movie, doesn't it? You've got to save the world. Does it feel like that?
If it is a movie, I've got some complaints for the director.
School children across the country are expected to skip classes on Friday as part of a strike against climate change.
All this started last year with just one kid, Sweden's Greta Thunberg.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The 16-year-old whose school strike for climate spread like an Amazon fire.
I really aspire to her. I think she's really amazing.
Schoolgirl Lucy Gray.
She was a lone striker, and I think that for me, walking out of my classroom would be really hard because I have wonderful teachers and I really enjoy going to school.
Rise up, share your voices, stand up.
Lucy loves her friends, loves her kapahaka, and her family. But at just 12 years old,
Stand up and speak out for climate change action.
she's also Christchurch's climate protest organiser.
I want to look back and think, I did something, I didn't just sit there and go, it's not going to affect me.
It's a big deal for Lucy and her mates.
I realised that I couldn't just fight this alone and I needed support, so I started a group in my school. We educate kids about climate change.
By 2050, there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish.
Do you call yourself an activist?
I don't really know. I feel like that's quite a advanced term. We're kind of like a PG activist group. We're like a family-friendly activist group. It's kind of like how we like to think of ourselves.
What do we want? Change! When do we want it now?
But they're a PG group dealing with adult stuff.
A lot of kids you'll talk to in my generation, and myself included, don't think it's possible under the current situation to have kids.
You don't think you'll have children?
If things stay the same, I think it would be an injustice to that child to bring a kid into this world.
He's not sure if he wants to have children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Everybody wants grandchildren.
Yeah, and great-grandchildren.
Luke's parents, Leon and Elisa.
Who knows when he gets married what his wife says, and, you know,
Yeah.
you basically just have to do what your wife says, don't you?
Are you worried about how much he's carrying?
Yeah, I think it is a lot. I do think it is a lot, and I do worry that he could burn out with it.
Are you guys saying to him, hey, just chill out?
A little bit, but he's got to work that out for himself quite a bit as well.
There's no way to separate all of these issues, especially with an issue as big as climate change.
But with global carbon emissions still increasing, for Luke, there's no time to waste.
It's apocalyptic, yeah. I hate to be alarmist, but it's like you can't stay true to the science without sounding alarmist.
Could the science be wrong?
I mean, I hope the science is wrong. Imagine if we woke up one morning and they said, actually, it's all fine. That would be amazing, but that's not the case.
They are now having to think about problems that didn't exist when I was their age.
Dr. Jane Goodall is a scientific legend. Her groundbreaking research with chimpanzees in the 60s changed the way humans viewed the natural world and our place in it. But climate change, she says, has turned her from a scientist to an activist.
We haven't inherited this planet from our parents, we borrowed it from our children, but we've just been stealing, not borrowing.
Now 85, Jane Goodall travels the globe 300 days a year.
They're not calling it climate change anymore. They're calling it climate crisis or climate catastrophe.
Today, she's in Christchurch. You're constantly travelling. What drives you?
Because I care passionately about the future of the planet. And, you know, the older you get, the less time you have. So I've got to use that time rather than slowing down, speeding up.
I'm quite worried because, well, it is our future now. It's not our great-great-great-grandchildren's. It's ours, and we need to do something about it. The climate is an animal's life support system, and currently that life support system is failing.
We have a window of time, but we do need to take action, and we need to take action now.
After the break, facing their fears. Are you guys scared?
Yeah, terrified.
Terrified.
And facing off with our biggest companies.
Business as usual is robbing us of a future.
Their little protest is not going to help the world one bit.
Kids should go to school.
Sweet, this is a day off school.
For over a year, round the world, kids have been striking. It's a massive movement, but not everyone's on board. Kids have been punished for being part of the protest.
Yeah, it's insane and it's disgusting. We've had some schools who have threatened to suspend any kids who strike, other schools who have strategically put exams on the same day as the strike to try and stop kids from striking.
Climate action!
Sorry. Can you see the school's point of view that they want their kids to stay in school and be educated?
I think that's what gives the strike the power, that all of these kids are willing to risk a day off school and risk their educations to show the government, to show our leaders and our industries that there's something way more important than detention.
Which is?
Saving the planet. We're getting split into 10 groups of 4. There you go, chuck it on.
Is this going to get you in trouble?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
How are your studies going? You are still a school kid after all.
Yeah. I think I'll be fine.
This says everything, the long pause. And there's another issue, a growing phenomenon called climate anxiety. Are you guys scared?
Yeah, terrified.
I think that's the main reason kids are out in the streets.
That's what drives us.
I know the facts, but I don't want to hear them because they're scary.
Typical symptoms of climate anxiety are fear, grief and despair.
And I get goosebumps when I think about it, when I talk about it. I go to bed shaking some nights, I cry.
So how do we talk to kids about climate change in a way that motivates them and doesn't scare them?
We need to be positive and we need to be confident that we can make a difference. And so, you know, the most important message is that every single one of us, and this includes children, we actually make a difference. So we then tell the children that there's lots of things they can do that will slow down climate change.
Right now, as humans, we're not being very sustainable.
Staving off climate anxiety is all about doing something, says Jane Goodall. Her Roots and Shoots program is helping kids all over the globe take action.
These were suitable for the history.
Everywhere I go, there are young people with shining eyes wanting to tell Dr. Jane what they're doing to make the world a better place. My hope is that those who are passionate, which is many, will, their passion will rub off on the ones who don't care. And it'll start making them think and maybe make their parents think.
Where does the climate change environmental interest come from in Luke?
I'm not sure where that came about.
Is it not from you guys?
I've always been very aware of the news.
No. He's influenced us
been...
more, like, we want to do the right thing for the planet and stuff, but we've got more into it because of him. People tell us that, oh, I can't get my teenagers to talk or whatever. We go, how do you get them to shut up?
Yeah.
Stop listening to the politicians!
Millions are on board with the climate crisis message, but not enough, Luke says, where it counts.
Stop listening to what they say and watch what they do!
Even some of the kids are still working it through. How worried are you?
Not that worried. I just think that 12 years in time we're going to be gone is just too much of an exaggeration. It's too much of hyperbole. That's what my teacher once told me.
Hyperbole, that's a great word. And what about you, Amber? Do you think it's a bit of an exaggeration to say 12 years is the window that we have to take action?
Not really, because numbers don't really lie. They can't.
We should certainly give the children the inspiration they need to take action themselves and influence others. But we can't afford not to work on the big decision makers. That's corporations and government.
So what would happen, we wondered, if kids could speak directly to some of New Zealand's biggest carbon emitters? A kind of climate change dragon's den, where companies would pitch their plan to reduce emissions to the kids. So who's the biggest problem?
Globally, I'd say the fossil fuel industry.
BP, ExxonMobil and Z Energy turned us down.
More locally in New Zealand, if you look at our emissions, 49% of them come from agriculture.
But Air New Zealand and Fonterra stepped up. What are you expecting today?
Oh, a bit of a grilling. I've got 3 children of my own, and so I know they can ask the hard questions.
Are you nervous about the sort of questions they might ask?
Not really. I think it's great that you're doing this program.
It's not easy fronting up to your harshest critics, climate leaders like Luke, Lucy, Sophie Hanford and Gemma York.
We've got a plan to try and address our emissions. We've got 2 big baddies. We've got coal and fossil fuels that we use in our manufacturing facilities, and we've got the cows' burps and the release of methane and nitrous oxide on the farms.
Your practices are contributing massively to climate change.
With our processing facilities, we've set the target to reduce our emissions by 30% by 2030. With the cows on farms, we are investing in methane research. There is a promising feed that the cows can eat that reduces how much methane's made in their body.
Do we have time to wait for that technology when we actually do know exactly what we need to do to avert the climate crisis?
It is our top environmental priority. We would like to go faster if we could. It's as simple as that.
Next up, Air New Zealand.
We're a big emitter of carbon, but we have a range of programs in place to try and minimise the carbon emissions through our operation. All of the little tugs that move around the airport, we have a target to move all of that to be 100% renewable, so all electric vehicles.
Would you be able to specify on what the time frame is for that?
Yeah, so we set a target for 2020 to have 100% of that converted. We'll be at 90% next year.
And what about...
and for our aircraft, you want to know about our
yeah.
aircraft? Yeah. We're in discussions with the 2 big aircraft manufacturers to try and understand how we could make electric aircraft possible in New Zealand. We're absolutely committed to making that happen. And I think it's especially personal for me because I became a mum this year. And sorry.
It's so important for us to see how much you care because we care that much.
I'm genuinely concerned about the future, and I think we should all be concerned about that, and we all need to work together.
And so, to the verdict. So guys, how did it go?
With Fonterra, I did really appreciate the fact that they acknowledged that they did need to do more because it's definitely important, but I would I think would be really good to have some more set in stone time frames.
They definitely found that within New Zealand the response was a lot more genuine in them backing up what they're already doing but committing to doing far more and having genuine plans and time frames for that action.
I think the difference between Fonterra and Air New Zealand shows that we cannot leave it up to just companies to decide out of their own hearts to save the planet. We've got to put in meaningful legislation to make sure that these companies have to.
And use our people power to hold them to account.
The message from the kids is, get used to them on the streets.
Tell me what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
Because until the rest of us act on climate change, they aren't letting up. So what's bigger, your sense of fear or your sense of hope?
I think they go hand in hand. I think that fear is what got kids out into the streets, fear for our futures, but it's given me huge hope that we see these kids out in the streets.
Yeah, super impressive kids and extraordinary scenes from Friday, wasn't it?